Today, we are presenting the final round of discussing the potential of the Hyperloop technology. And of course, we are not doing this alone. Our series is a collaboration with Andreas Jossen, Head of Technology and Innovation Outpost of the Swiss Federal Railways, SBB, here in the Bay Area. Welcome, Andreas.
Hi, good morning, Nicola. Good morning, California, and good evening, Switzerland. Thanks, everyone, for joining. Yeah, as Nicola mentioned, we have this very cool online series approaching the future of mobility, where we highlight a few technologies that could highlight different topics, different areas of mobility and how it might look like. We talked about micromobility in December, and basically the whole month of February and now March, we are taking an in-depth look into Hyperloop technologies, how it has affected passenger, infrastructure, but also cargo. And now we're taking a look at Hyperloop in Switzerland. What will be happening actually there? And, you know, why is Switzerland actually on the forefront for mobility with public transportation? Why is that so big? And it has been and will be for tomorrow. So I'm very honored to have a special guest, a welcoming message from one of Switzerland's presidents, from Guy Parmelin, who will give us the opening remarks for today's panel. So without further ado, I'll share the video.
Mesdames et messieurs, il est dans la nature des choses que cela bouge dans le secteur des transports. À cet égard, la vitesse et l'impact environnemental des déplacements sont désormais devenus des aspects fondamentaux quand il en va du futur de la mobilité. Et nous avons besoin de projets visionnaires pour nous attaquer à ces aspects. Vu sous cet angle, la décision de soutenir financièrement la fondation Eurotube, qui a été prise en décembre dernier sur proposition du Conseil suisse de la science, le CSS, est parfaitement logique. La Fondation a ainsi reçu le statut d'institution de recherche d'importance nationale. Son secteur d'activité, le transport sous vide de personnes et de marchandises, n'est pas seulement porteur dans les deux sens du terme, mais il représente aussi un marché prometteur sur lequel les entreprises suisses ont la possibilité de se positionner. D'une part, de nombreux vols à courte distance n'auront plus lieu d'être, ce qui permettra de réduire considérablement les émissions nuisibles au climat. D'autre part, le fait de relier directement le point de départ et le point d'arrivée raccourcira aussi la durée des déplacements. Votre intérêt pour le thème « Transition to the Future of Mobility » est parfaitement justifié et je suis certain que vous bénéficierez d'aperçus intéressants sur ce qui nous fera bouger demain. La place économique suisse est extrêmement innovante et compétitive sur les plans de la recherche et de l'innovation. J'aimerais en profiter pour rappeler une fois de plus que le secteur privé finance la majeure partie des coûts et que les pouvoirs publics n'interviennent qu'à titre subsidiaire. Ce fonctionnement a toujours fait ses preuves et j'espère qu'il continuera de déboucher sur des résultats positifs à l'avenir, par exemple sous la forme du cluster technologique consacré à la mobilité et au transport sous vide que cherche à développer Eurotube. Je souhaite à cette jeune fondation beaucoup de succès et des rencontres intéressantes.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. A sentence that I always wanted to say, so I'm really lucky for this. So cool. Yeah, as he mentioned, visionary projects are much needed in mobility and in transportation, also in Switzerland, to stay on top. So without further ado, let's dig in. Let's go directly to Switzerland. And now my colleague, Dominic Scherer, will take over. He is your panelist moderator for today and introduce the three panelists and guide you through this moderation. Dominic, good evening to Switzerland and take it away. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Andreas. I'm very happy to be here. Good morning to the United States. Good evening to Switzerland. Very happy to be here, and also big thanks for Monsieur Parmelin, who has shown us the importance of the future of mobility and that Switzerland is prepared to take this as a very important development that we will continue to see and to further develop. I would like to introduce to you the panelists of today. We have a very interesting panel of interesting people who are all working in the future of mobility under vacuum transport. We have, as our first panelist, we have Doré de Morcier. He is in charge for research and development at the Eurotube Foundation, the foundation that Monsieur Parmelin has mentioned in his video, and that has recently gained the status of research institute of national importance here in Switzerland. Our second speaker is Natalie. She is the co-head of the Swissloop ETH team. Swissloop was the team that contested in the SpaceX Foundation, in the SpaceX competition, and made a second place during one of the competitions. And then last but not least, we have Stefan Kaspar. He is the co-founder of Swissloop Tunneling, a student-led organization that aims to compete in the next competition that is made from the Boring Company, the Not a Boring Competition. And in the next few minutes, I would like to introduce them to present themselves and their organizations with the Doré de Morcier to start.
I hope you can hear me well. Good evening, everyone. So I'm Doré de Morcier. I'm the founder and lead of the Eurotube Foundation, an organization that I have started back in 2017. I had just experienced the first year developing the project at ETH under the name Swissloop, which is kind of the origin of also this entire project. So we started this project in Zurich, and we are aiming to develop Hyperloop technologies that are also known as VacTrain or vacuum transport technologies. And the Eurotube Foundation is really trying to develop the fundamental research and product development, as well as then transferring and incubating these products for transfer into industry. And hopefully one day we also get to play an important role in certifying and regulating these technologies. Here is an overview of the project that has been mentioned in President Parmelin's video. So we are aiming to facilitate an infrastructure such that this research can be materialized and hopefully accelerated in the coming years. And this is the view of the test track that we are naming Alpha Tube, because it will be one or first of its kind here in Switzerland at least, and hopefully for entire Europe, a testing facility that will be made accessible. If you have a look at these systems, we are talking about a new mode of transport that is using a lot of existing technology. So we have a tube from which you take out the air, in which vehicles will be able to run at very low friction and therefore at high speeds and a very good energy efficiency. And for that, we are developing these different technological systems that you can see here in the overview. So of course, we need to pump out the air from the tube and enable vehicles to enter this subatmospheric pressure regime. And this will be very important for us in the coming years to develop an integrated system and hopefully demonstrate this works. So all in all, Eurotube can be summarized as a platform and technology incubation center that will hopefully facilitate and create value here in Switzerland, but also enable European stakeholders to benefit from, on the one hand, bringing results from academia into the industrialization. So we see a lot of different technologies that play an important role, be it robotics or material science that needs to be transferred into important values for which we stand up. So we want to build a low carbon rail guided transport system that is fit for the 21st century. And this means that we need to integrate the latest of technology advances across the spectrum. And you can see that we have started, or I personally, I must say, have been working on this since 2016. And now through the years, we see that we have grown a very good ecosystem here in Switzerland, where a lot of industry stakeholders also see the benefit of this new technology. And of course, now with the recognition by the government, this is really helping us accelerate the progress to build this public-private partnership that will be necessary to well, bring this really into a scalable solution. And you can see that for us, timeline is quite essential, that in the coming few years, we want to build an incubation center, which I showed you just the pictures. This AlphaTube test track is quite essential and will hopefully show lay the basis for a next future track that is then ready for first passengers and will hopefully demonstrate how this can be of economic value. So not just the technology demonstrator as the AlphaTube is, but we want to really bring this to mass production and have this in mind from the start. Just the two more examples of how we work with industry, because we of course are very open to collaborate, and not just with Swiss companies, as you can see on this pictures, but we really want to establish an ecosystem, how Switzerland will have to integrate into the European context, because at the European level there is already much activity, be it startups or also other universities who have already recognized the benefit of this future of mobility. And yes, we are very much looking forward to working not just with our partners you can see on this slide, who are really pushing these developments, but also looking forward to welcoming new partners in this endeavor. And that's why also today we are really glad to announce the collaboration between the three organizations that are today in this conference. So we are working together, Swissloop, Eurotube, and Swissloop Tunneling, to have really a joint and unified vision of this future of mobility that is high-speed or ultra-high-speed vacuum transport. And this Swiss VacTrain group will hopefully bring very exciting prospects to this field. And we really look forward to collaborating on these subjects. So I will pass on the word to Dominic for showing it just a short video, how such a vision could look like.
Thank you very much, Dore. I have just, before we continue, I have received a brief note that we cannot see your camera, Dore. So I think it's fixed now. Very good. And I will continue with the video that Dore already announced to you, which is actually a premiere for the public and hasn't been shown before. So you are the lucky first people who get to see this vision of Eurotube and its partners.
The problems caused by the rising demand and emissions from transport are gradually becoming visible. Old and congested modes of transport are not only frustrating for us humans, they are also a burden for our climate. With the growth of air traffic, this problem is becoming more severe in the future. ICAO forecasts that CO2 emissions from aviation could triple by 2050. To avoid this future, we must invest into research of sustainable alternatives now. Eurotube is working on solutions for this problem. This is our eTube vision. The passengers book a door-to-door trip. Just a few minutes later, they are being picked up by an autonomous vehicle and transported to their destination without changing even once. Different types of vehicles cover a variety of user needs. From the metro version to private cabins to business class and of course cargo solutions, the vehicle automatically heads for the nearest eTube gate to connect to the ultra-fast vacuum transport network. In this urban scenario, it uses the streets or the local railroad network to do so. The vehicle enters the gate for long-distance travel, and the airlock introduces it into the low-pressure atmosphere of the tube. The eTube system is mostly underground. It is therefore weather-independent, silent, and it preserves the natural habitat. Only a small service building which maintains the vacuum and serves as an emergency exit, is visible on the surface. The intermodal system is fully autonomous and is powered by renewable energies. On the acceleration strip, the vehicle is propelled up to 1,200 kilometers per hour by a high-performance linear motor in the track. For longer distances, vehicles are being virtually coupled together, called platooning, to achieve higher throughputs. The connection of European metropolitan areas into megaregions has replaced all short-haul flight and created many economic benefits, as well as increased prosperity and new lifestyles. A trip from Zurich to Berlin will, for example, only take 40 minutes. We not only dream about the future, but we have a clear strategy on how to achieve this sustainable vision of our mobility and work on it already today. The AlphaTube research facility in Valais, Switzerland serves as the premier development platform for researchers and engineers from around the world. Here, the Eurotube Foundation designs, builds and tests all the components necessary to make vacuum transport a reality. Let's shape the future of mobility together. Join us today.
Very good. So with this interesting vision that we've just seen and no further ado, I would like to give the floor to Nathalie Nick, who will tell us about Swissloop and its activities.
Yes, so thank you very much for the introduction, Dominic. So yeah, as he already said, my name is Nathalie Nick. I've been part of Swissloop for 2.5 years now. In the first year, I was in the mechanical team, and then afterwards I joined the board, and I'm now the co-president for 1.5 years. So, and in this presentation, I would like to give you a short insight into how Hyperloop is developed from the student team perspective. So I think I talk for Swissloop here, but I could tell I could speak for all the Hyperloop teams that are around the world now. So this is a short insight into how we at Swissloop are pursuing the Hyperloop research. As you've heard earlier, so Eurotube is doing the infrastructure, and we at Swissloop, we are focused on the pods, so the vehicles that travel in the tubes. So here a short overview. Exactly. So we're a team of around 30 students. We're a student team, so all the members are active, like enrolled students at different Swiss universities. So we do research on Hyperloop prototypes, and we participate in competitions, so the SpaceX competition in the previous years, and now also further events. We're in close contact to industry sponsors, but like the whole engineering we do in-house ourselves with the students. And it's a very interdisciplinary project, so we have students from like mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, but also computer science, and also people from business or design. So there are really a lot of areas coming together and working hand in hand for the scope of 1 year. The whole Swissloop Association has now around 80 members, and the active team always consists of around 30 students, and the alumni, they support and help also during the season. Here you can see a picture of last year's team with the current pod, which we will see a bit also later. Then, so after years, there were also other activities that we started together with other organizations. So for example, we created a vacuum transport seminar. So that's a seminar we started together with Eurotube at ETH Zurich a year ago. And now, after a year, there are already other organizations and universities that joined. So we now have also the Technical University of Munich, the University of Applied Science in Emden-Leer in Germany, and also the University of Oldenburg, who are also contributing to this seminar. And also Swissloop is one of the organizing teams for the European Hyperloop that will first take place in summer 2021. So here only a short overview. So as you've seen, Swissloop was established in 2016, where they created this first pod for the for one of the first basics competitions. Then a year later, it was that pod, the first one focused on gas propulsion, then the second one with electric motors. Then the third pod was with the linear induction motor, and from here on we focused on the development of linear induction motors as a propulsion system. So we participated at the SpaceX competition for 3 times in a row. Then in this year, in 2020, there was no competition, but we kept going. And as you can see now, this year in 2021, there will be the European Hyperloop Week. And this is the current team developing the newest pod for the exhibition in summer 2021. And here only a short overview that you have an idea how this looks like if students participate with Swissloop and join the team for a year. So we have the development phase that lasts around from September to December, and the production phase, which is done either in-house or together with partners. Then the assembly process in the workshop, then of course the testing, and at the end the competition or the event, whatever. Okay, now I would like to show 2 short videos. The first one, this one is from Los Angeles, where we participated in the SpaceX competition in 2019. That was 1 or 2 days before the final event, like the finals. So you can see the tube is open for testing so that we can see into the tube. And yeah, that was one of the first run that really worked in the tube. So everybody was really excited about it. Okay.
Two, one, run!
Okay, and one more video where we can see the newest pod and how it is operated on the test track.
Ensure pod is in idle state.
Pod is in idle state.
Ensure all pressure values are nominal. Start control panel logging.
Started control panel logging.
Insert the Stäubli connector. Clear all battery and inverter faults.
We have no faults.
Perform health check.
Tank pressure 35 bar. That's good. Everything else is nominal. We're good.
Ready? 3, 2, 1, run!
Okay, so I think this holds for all the Hyperloop teams. So it's really a short amount of time. It's like 10 months that this team of say 20 to 30 people develop a pod, and it's really remarkable, and it's really good feeling if after a year everything works, and it's a very educational experience for all the students. So this is what we really support and want to follow at Swissloop, that we help in the education and provide a platform where students can really make practical experiences next to their technical studies. So I hope I could have given you some, like an insight into Swissloop and how the Hyperloop teams look like. And yeah, now I'd like to hand back to Dominic.
Thank you very much. I just apologize for having forgotten with the microphone. Thank you very much. It's so interesting to always see these insights into how these competitions and this technology development is working. Just as a information for the audience as well, you are able to ask questions on the questions and answers panel that then we will pick up during the panel and we'll take into the discussion. So feel free to ask questions at any time. Then without any further ado, I would also like to give the floor to Stefan Kaspar, who will introduce the most recent initiative that was created just last year, Swissloop Tunneling, as a follower or successor of Swissloop for the newest competition.
Yeah, thank you, Dominic. So yeah, my name is Stefan. I'm a co-founder of Swissloop Tunneling. I was also part of the Swissloop team in 2018-19, the Cloud year, and together with former Swissloop team members, we founded Swissloop Tunneling last September. Now over 45 students are working at our workshop at the EMPA in Dübendorf, where we are building and testing our tunneling robot. So Swissloop Tunneling is one of the digging dozen that advanced to the final stage of the Not a Boring competition. Out of nearly 400 applicants, we are one of 12 teams that advanced through the technical design reviews, and we are invited to build our robot and go to Los Angeles or Las Vegas this summer. And the competition takes place in the Mojave Desert, and we're looking forward to meeting also the other teams, for example, from TU Munich and MIT and other universities. The goal of the Not a Boring competition is to beat Gary the snail. Gary has a top speed of 1 centimeter per second, which will be our target. This maximum speed is also the average speed of our machine that will dig and produce the liner and move forward. We have to dig a 30-meter long tunnel with a diameter of 0.5 meters as fast as possible. We're also very proud to represent Switzerland and ETH Zurich as the only Swiss team left in the competition. Of course, Switzerland has a great history of inspiring tunneling projects, and I think we need this expertise for building the VecTrain infrastructure. I don't want to go into too much technical details of our machine because this presentation is being recorded and of course we're in a competition. But what I can say is that we will use a different kind of soil removal mechanism than conventional tunneling boring machines, and that our machine will produce the tunnel liner inside of the tunnel, which allows us to simplify logistics. And to feasibly build a network of tunnels, we have to rapidly innovate, increase tunneling speed, and reduce costs by a factor of 10 or more. The major disadvantage of today's tunnel boring machines are the upfront costs. They are expensive to construct and can be difficult to transport. Our vision is to make tunneling faster, more sustainable, and cheaper. After the competition, we want to focus even more on tunneling and infrastructure solutions for vacuum transport, and we want to scale up our machine to the back train diameters of 2 to 4 meters. You can follow our journey on our social media pages and website, swisslooptunneling.ch, and I'm very much looking forward to the panel discussion that will follow now.
Thank you very much, Stefan. So this was the introduction of these 3 very interesting companies and initiatives that form the partnership in Switzerland for vacuum transportation. And with that, I would like to start with the panel part of today's event. And I would like to start with a question: why is it even necessary that we have such a cluster? Why don't we have just one company that is doing it all? Natalie.
Okay. I think maybe for the audience, we can summarize again a bit what is the cluster actually. So I think the cluster is us, like us three, our 3 organizations working together and pushing the Hyperloop concept forward. So your question was why is this cluster needed? So as you could see, like everything was established a couple of years back, and it all has the same roots. So we're all already connected, and we all know each other quite well. So we also know how to interact and work with each other. So this is really a big advantage that we can use for a good collaboration and for the development and the research.
Yeah, and I would agree with Natalie here. I mean, we need to join forces because we can build this in a technology only together, I would say. I mean, Eurotube is building the vacuum tubes, the infrastructure, Swissloop is building the pods, and we at Swissloop Tunneling, we're focusing on tunneling solutions for vacuum transport. So I think we really can, we should work together, and I think it makes very much sense also that then over 70 people will work on this project together instead of working on their individual projects.
Yes, I think it will give a much more integrated approach to the whole concept. I think it's really important if you look at startups in this space. Well, you can see that, or you've seen this joint vision overview that needs to be built, like do everything from day one. And I think with each of these organizations' complementary skill set and also experience, we can really form now one very integrated approach and to cover the key challenges and maybe to answer your question why in Switzerland. I think it's really important that we have this as a base for scaling up the technology from Switzerland, exporting this technology as well. And I think this is a really important message that Switzerland also gets heard at the European scale, because we should, well, be aware that the Europeans also will go quite quickly in this endeavor, and we need to make sure that the Hyperloops don't get built around Switzerland. So that hopefully answers your question.
Yes, thank you very much. We actually already have one question from the audience. It is Jean-Pierre who is asking, what is the relationship of this cluster with SwissPod? Is there any collaboration? Maybe Dore, you can elaborate.
Yeah, so we know SwissPod, which is a spin-off from EPFL, and it's actually quite interesting in the my personal also experience, because I initially started the Swiss Loop team at ETH, so we were in fierce competition, or like fierce competition. We were well competing directly with the EPFL University at the time, which was on the one hand it was great because it spurred probably innovation, but I think well, now that the competition from Elon Musk is well shifting to the tunneling side, we really look forward to collaborating more intensively with EPFL. Switzerland is a small place, so hopefully we can join forces, and hopefully, yeah, also the spin-off company or companies from EPFL working in this field will hopefully also join us. We are certainly now strongly clustered around Zurich, but as we plan to build the test site, this 3 kilometer in Western Switzerland, we hope we can hopefully collaborate.
Okay, I see that Dora's connection is a little bit unstable. I hope this will go away. If you can please check that for a moment. In the meantime, I would like to go on and ask back to the panelists, why do you believe that it's Switzerland that is exactly the right place to establish such a vacuum cluster? And we have different initiatives also to start test tracks in, for example, the Netherlands, but also in Toulouse, France, or in Spain. So why are you grouping and gathering here in Switzerland? If you can maybe answer, Stefan.
Yeah, so I think Switzerland has great expertise already in this field. I mean, we have great universities and companies, especially really great companies that are necessary for this project. And with EPFL Loop and Swiss Loop, we also have the 2 student teams who placed 2nd and 3rd in the SpaceX competition again and again. So I think Switzerland is really, we already have, and we are all also one of the countries that had 2 teams in the SpaceX competition and that placed like in the higher ranks again and again. So I think we already have a lot of students and also alumni from those associations that really can help to make a difference here.
Thank you very much, Stefan. I'm taking another question from the audience. There's Alfred Merkeli who's asking, where is Switzerland in our Switzerland's cluster now in comparison with other Hyperloop projects around the world? I see Dora is not here yet, so Natalie or Stefan, what do you think on this topic?
Well, it's a very broad question because the other companies or projects working on Hyperloop, they're not all focusing on the same research or on the same topics. So I would say what makes our cluster unique is that, as Stefan mentioned earlier, that we have different backgrounds. So we have the infrastructure side, the pod side, and also now the tunneling side. So we bring in a lot of different expertise, and we also bring in like a connection or a collaboration of also like students, universities, and companies, which makes everything very broad and very diverse also. So I would say this is what takes our cluster apart from a lot of other Hyperloop projects.
Yeah, I also would agree here because there are startups, as you may know, there are already some bigger startups also in the US and other countries, but there are no clusters yet that we could compare to ours, I would say. So we really have a lot of those young, ambitious students that have probably always have been also a driver of innovation, together with the knowledge in the companies, and also that we are not a startup. We are, as Swissloop and Swissloop Tunnelings are associations, and Eurotube is a foundation. I think this really helps also to focus on the right topics for research.
Thank you very much for these answers and talking about maybe also the scope of this cluster. Do you think this is going to be something that stays in Switzerland, or is this going to develop into something that is going to cover all of Europe and Europe becoming one big cluster of vacuum transport initiatives?
I think we have to see. I mean, we just started out with our Swiss cluster, but of course, I think it would be awesome to have some kind of European cluster. I mean, we're already talking also to other European startups, other startups and teams. So I think the connections are already there, and it would be awesome probably to also join forces here in Europe. Because we probably will face similar problems, especially also with law, civil, and civil engineering challenges.
All right, I would like to take up another question from the audience. Bob is asking how the research and development that is being undertaken in this cluster, how it's being funded, maybe of different perspectives as well, Natalie and Stefan.
Can you hear me again?
Yes, we can hear you again. Of course, you're very welcome to contribute, Dore.
Good. So yeah, the funding structure that also the Eurotube Foundation has been built on is a public-private partnership. So we are co-developing these systems with partial public funding, and then also the private companies who are investing in their own knowledge, IP, competencies, and often also have own people working on the project, and that really augments the capability. I hope this just in a nutshell is clear, but I can also go into more detail there. Yeah. Maybe from the others.
Yes, so I can speak for the Swissloop side. So we have industry partners. They either sponsor the project as a financial sponsoring or as a product sponsoring. So we have both, and it makes it quite an interesting mix actually, because we have a lot of technical sponsors. They can bring in a lot of technical expertise also, or we can use their test sites or their manufacturing sites, but also like general companies that are just interested in a topic and interested in supporting something new, something innovative. Then they contribute with the financial sponsoring. And of course also the universities, so the ETH Zurich and EMPA, the Swiss Federal Material Science, and also the Innovation Park Zurich. They're sponsoring us with the location actually, so the offices and the test track, the workshops.
Yeah, and for Swissloop tunneling, it's very similar to Swissloop. So we have this very strong competition focus, and we have sponsors and industry partners, universities, of course, ETH, Zurich, also other foundations and other industry partners who support us.
Thank you very much for these insights. And we've already talked about why you believe that there needs to be a cluster where different initiatives are working together. What we haven't talked about yet is what are actually the next steps that you're planning to undertake? Are there any specific projects that are going to take place in the format of this cluster rather than as individual initiatives? What is the plan?
Can you hear and see me?
Yes, we can.
Good. I will start. So, yeah. So at the moment, we actually this initiative of these joint activities has started in December, and we really have been thinking in January how we can really accelerate joint progress. And we have noticed that on Eurotube side, where we have looked into developing a lot of the civil engineering aspects for such an infrastructure, that there are very actual tests that we need to do before we are going to build a 3-kilometer test track. And so we are planning to build already few of those segments that will be the final design for the test track in Valais. And this will be a great opportunity to work also with Swissloop on how we integrate the track and also how these vehicles will run inside this tube. And that's a project that we have now started to work on jointly, and hopefully we can communicate more details quite soon. Yes.
Yes, probably.
And of course, maybe Natalie, you can say something about the seminar as well, which I find also quite interesting, because the collaboration.
Yes, that's a good idea. Maybe I can give an example also of this collaboration that Dore mentioned. So at Swissloop, one of the big learnings was that pods, like for the SpaceX competition, we always designed for pods running on an I-beam. So that's like a rail, an I-beam. Yes. And so we learned that this might not be the most ideal or most optimal way that pods travel. So this cluster now is the first opportunity that we from Swissloop, from the Swissloop side, can develop or mention our needs that we have for a better subtrack. And the Eurotube Foundation is also interested in learning how pods can really travel the best. So this overlap basically is probably a good example of what this cluster is about, what the whole interaction and the collaboration is about. And now, as an example, the vacuum transport seminar that was established a year ago between Eurotube and Swissloop at ETH. So the idea was that we launch student projects, so thesis, say bachelor semester and master thesis, that are conducted as a collaboration of Swissloop and Eurotube and also ETH. And for that, people have like a stage where they can present their results. The seminar was established where the students give their presentations of their work and what they've learned. And also industry experts, like experts from Eurotube and from Swissloop, from the industry, they have also like a possibility to present what they are contributing to the Hyperloop development. So the seminar has now been running for a year. We start the 3rd edition in a bit less than a month, so 12th of April. We're very happy. You're very welcome to join. You can find more info on vacuumtransport.org. So bit of commercial here. And yeah, so this is also an example of this collaboration that functions pretty well, as we've seen for a year now. So I think we're really on the right track to proceed this.
You can mention that 2 more universities have actually joined just recently. Yeah. Exactly.
Yes. Like seminar now spread across the borders. So we have now the University of Applied Science in Leer in Germany and the University of Oldenburg, who are partners of the seminar, and now new also the Technical University of Munich and TUM Hyperloop. So from the organization part or from the partners part, and from the students, there are really a lot of students watching the seminar now, also from Valencia in Spain, and even from California, from UC Davis. We have students participating in the seminar.
We have 2 more questions from the audience that I would like to take. The first question is from Karim. He asks, why do you plan to build these tubes underneath the surface? And if it wouldn't be cheaper or easier to build them just like train tracks? Maybe Dore, you can give an answer to that one.
Yes. So in fact, so maybe this was too quick when I presented my slides. The test track that we are building in Valais, Switzerland, will be an above ground configuration of a Hyperloop track. So when we think about, or when we analyze the system, we look at all the different configurations you can imagine. So even going through a lake is not a no-go, and we need to see how such a high-speed or ultra-high-speed system will go through the countryside, and that's why it will be a combination of above ground and underground and underwater, and kind of all the situations need to be accounted for, and given the economic and technical benefits of a specific implementation, and that's why everything needs to be considered, and you see also across the globe companies developing this in different ways. But the subatmospheric pressure environment that you need for speeds well above 600-700 kilometers per hour becomes quite an important requirement. So the tube or the tunnel is necessary. Yes.
Very good. Then the other question that we have is, I see it raises some interest, whether individuals or companies can give grants to the Eurotube Foundation soon. I'm assuming this question is addressed to Dore as well.
Could you repeat it? I just acoustically had a small interruption.
Yes, the question is whether individuals or companies can give grants to the Eurotube Foundation soon. The question is from Blake.
Yes, of course. You can support us. You can reach out to us through our website. We have even a support button on there. And of course, we like to get into discussions with companies who are already working in this space. Literally, aerospace companies are quite suitable for this type of application, because we're talking about a mobility concept that brings together train, aerospace, and even maybe automotive. So yeah, we really look forward to working with companies in these fields.
Thank you very much, Dore. So maybe to also wrap up the discussion a little bit is the question on how are you planning to develop really maybe in a more longer term, and if you had a particular company or person that you would like to join, I would be very interested to know who this would be. Maybe Stefan, you can start.
Yeah, I mean, I want to answer the last question first. So it would also, of course, be great if we would have some kind of Elon Musk figure here in Switzerland to join the cluster. Also, of course, EPFL Loop, Cargo Souterrain, other initiatives. It would be awesome that if they could join the cluster, and also ambitious students. I think that's very important. And for the long term, for Swissloop tunneling, I mean, we really have like this focus on the competition next summer. And after that, we will then scale up. As I said, we will scale up the diameter of our tunneling machine, and we will then focus really on those processes, because it's really about getting costs down for tunneling. Yeah.
So the next time Switzerland wants to build a new Gotthard, Swissloop tunneling is going to be.
I mean, as said, we will focus on smaller diameters and really about the processes and how we can build Hyperloop tunnels.
All right, thank you very much. Natalie, what are your outlooks for the future?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, we are very engaged in like the education for students. So I'm looking forward that other students, and more students can join and probably write a thesis or just engage in the whole process and the development. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to welcoming more students to work on this project.
Thank you very much, Natalie. And last but not least, Dore, what are your outlooks for the future, and who would you like to join?
Yeah, so I think I share Stefan's vision there. I think we need visionary people to work on this project. So just the talented and most expert people in their respective fields should join us. We have a clear plan what we want to execute. So we are really resource restricted in terms of talent expertise, and hopefully we can build a strong team and bring in new partners who complement us well. And as I said, we are not like in a sense we are open to anyone approaching us with a clear proposition, and hopefully we can bring in, of course, Swiss companies as well. Think of maybe Stadler Rail, companies who are already working in the railway sector, and those kind of companies which could also be using this opportunity as a kind of lighthouse for their own innovation. Yes.
Very interesting outlooks from these three initiatives. Well, with that, we have almost come to a closing of this panel. I would like to thank you, Dore, Stefan, and Natalie very much for your contributions. I'm sure that many participants will have gotten a better insight on what's going on in the Hyperloop discussion, but also what happens in Switzerland specifically now in times when these topics are not in the media as much anymore as they were when the competition has happened. I would also like to thank very much to Andreas and to Swissnex, Andreas from SBB and Nicola from Swissnex, for organizing this series, and would like to hand over to Andreas for some closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Dominic, and also thanks for the moderation that you did today. It was a very great discussion about different visions about the future of mobility. So I'm very excited that Switzerland is on the forefront of this, and also my home canton, Valais, is on the forefront of this. So that's great. Yeah, something that is coming is Hyperloop. Something that is coming even a little bit earlier is our next stop. We will be talking about, as part of our series, about autonomous driving in May. So hang out for this. We will reach out to you people if you want to have more information. The video of this will also be shared on the Swissnex San Francisco website, as well as all the other panels that we did on Hyperloop, micromobility, and all the future panels that will be there. So with this, thanks everyone for participating for this great and very interesting discussion about Hyperloop in Switzerland. I can't wait for this very great and astonishing music that Natalie was showing during her video. Like every time we move with Hyperloop, we should have this pumping up music and getting us motivated. That's really great. So thank you very much. Have a good evening or a good day in California.
Greetings from Valais. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.